My knees in the night, saying prayers in the street light. Been spending most of their lives living in the gangster's paradise. Been spending most of their lives living in the gangster's.
Oh, hey! I didn't see you there. Welcome to another exciting episode of Law with Rachel. We have some exciting stuff for you, so stay tuned. Today's topic of the day, capital punishment. Let's see if we can find the definition of capital punishment in the dictionary, shall we? Seems that capital punishment, otherwise known as the death penalty, is the penalty of death a person receives for committing a crime. And now, a brief history.
Executions and the death penalty have gone back to as far as the beginning of recorded history. If you look back at the ancient laws of China and even Hammurabi's Code of Law, you could be sure to find the death penalty. The death sentence in the past was often accompanied by torture, and executions were often public. However, methods have gone a long way and are now more humane and less painful. Did you know currently 58 nations actively practice capital punishment?
98 countries have abolished it de jure. 7 have abolished it for ordinary crimes only, and 35 have abolished it de facto. Nearly all the countries in the world prohibit the execution of those who are under 18 at the time of their crime. In most countries, capital punishment is a result of murder, treason, espionage, or as part of military justice. In some countries, sexual crimes such as rape, adultery, sodomy, or incest carry the death penalty, as do religious crimes such as apostasy in Islamic nations. Drug trafficking is also an offense. In militaries around the world, the death sentence has been imposed for offenses such as mutiny, insubordination, cowardice, and desertion. Currently, only 32 states in the U.S. practice capital punishment. The crimes that result in capital punishment vary from state to state, although murder is a crime that carries the death penalty in all states. Other crimes that can bring about the death sentence are treason, aggravated kidnapping, drug trafficking, aircraft hijacking, placing a bomb near a bus terminal, espionage, rape of a child, aggravated assault by someone already incarcerated, and attempting, authorizing, or advising the killing of any officer, juror, or witness involved in a criminal case. Here are some methods for execution that were permitted for use in 2010. Beheading, electric chair, shooting, hanging, lethal injection, and gas chamber. In Canada. In 1998, Canada also removed capital punishment from the Canadian National Defence Act, bringing Canadian military law in line with civil law in Canada. Capital punishment was removed from the Canadian Criminal Code in 1976. It is replaced with a mandatory life imprisonment without a possibility of parole for 25 years for all first-degree murderers. Next, we're going to look at the 13 different issues surrounding capital punishment. The death penalty is not exactly fair, as there are several factors that majorly influence whether a person is sentenced to death or not. These factors include geography, gender, race, bias, the quality of the representation a person gets in court, local politics, and juror misperception. There are some murders that do not result in death sentences, while less serious crimes do. Two people who have committed the same crime may receive two different punishments, where one is sentenced to death and the other just serves time in prison. Here's a fact. Since the US Supreme Court reinstated the death penalty in 1976, 82% of all executions have taken place in the South. The Northeast accounts for under 1%. The death penalty costs a lot, and that money could go to much better places. For example, in solving unsolved crimes, it could go to understaffed police departments, crime prevention, mental health treatment, education, victim services, and drug treatment programs compete for the same funds as death penalty cases. Pretrial costs, jury selection, trials, incarceration, appeals, all these cost way more when the death penalty is involved. Taxpayers have spent more than $4 billion on capital punishment in California ever since the death penalty was reinstated in 1978. Or that's $308 million for the 13 executions that were carried out since then. Some people believe that by punishing those who have committed the more serious crimes, such as rape or murder, with the most serious punishment, the death penalty, that this will scare off potential murderers and society. People will be scared to commit crimes for fear of losing their lives. With the death penalty, people think that this will help reduce crime rates. One issue with capital punishment is wrongful execution. What if you have the wrong man? What if the person that you execute is innocent? Some people believe that capital punishment is the worst violation of human rights because the right to life is more important. Some people argue that capital punishment is given more to minorities and people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds than privileged white people. Some of the people who commit crimes suffer from an intellectual disability, formerly known as mental retardation. There are those who believe that those who suffer from an intellectual disability should not be executed as is considered unconstitutional. Some supporters of the death penalty argue that the death penalty is morally justified because the people that commit murder are getting what they deserve by dying. In a way, the government would be just as bad as the murderer. Others would argue that retribution is simply revenge, and it wouldn't be fair to kill because someone killed. Some think that it'd be unfair if a murderer were to stay alive. It is argued that killing someone for killing someone is a unique punishment since general crimes are not punished by subjecting the perpetrator to a similar act. For example, rapists are not punished by being sexually assaulted. Those who have committed crimes at the age of 18 or younger should not be executed as it is considered cruel and unusual. Some think that rather than the death penalty, life without parole is a sufficient substitution. Some argue that life without parole is basically the same thing as the death penalty. Mental illnesses are medical conditions that disrupt a person's thinking, feelings, moods, abilities to relate to others, and daily functioning. Insanity is a severe form of mental illness and is dealt with separately by the legal system. Inmates who are so out of touch with reality that they do not know right from wrong and cannot understand their punishment or the purpose of it are exempt from the death penalty. People have said that it is unconstitutional to execute a person with a mental illness. Some people will receive the death penalty due to the quality of the representation he or she was provided at court. Almost all defendants in capital cases cannot afford their own attorney. A big factor in deciding whether or not someone receives the death penalty is how good their lawyer is. Some people believe that the death penalty is a way for the victims' families to get some closure. And now let's take a look at the case of Cameron Todd Willingham.
On December 23, 1991, a fire destroyed the home of Cameron Todd Willingham, killing his 3 daughters. Willingham survived along with his wife. Willingham was accused of setting the fire and killing his children in an attempt to cover up abuse of the girls and was charged with murder. He said he was asleep in the home when the fire started and always maintained his innocence. There was no evidence of child abuse, and Willingham's wife told prosecutors that he had never abused the children. 13 years later, before his execution, Dr. Gerald Hurst, a scientist and fire investigator, reviewed the case and concluded there was no evidence of arson, the same conclusion reached by other fire investigators. Hurst's report was sent to Governor Rick Perry's office as well as the Board of Pardons and Paroles along with Willingham's appeal for clemency. Neither responded to his appeal. Willingham was executed by lethal injection on February 17, 2004.
The pro side of capital punishment. The death penalty gives closure to victims' families who have suffered. Justice is better served. Prisoner parole or escapes can allow criminals another chance to kill. Some believe that instead of suffering in life imprisonment, it is just better to kill them. When a criminal is given a death penalty, it persuades others in society to commit crimes. This is said to lower the crime rate. It contributes to the problem of overpopulation in the prison system. It gives safety to fellow prisoners or guards, as it is said that those who have committed crimes such as murder have a violent personality and may attack people. The con side of capital punishment. Financial costs for capital punishment are several times more than the cost of life imprisonment. We as a society have to move away from the eye for an eye revenge mentality if we as a civilization want to advance. It sends the wrong message. Why kill people who kill people to show that killing is wrong? Life in prison is a worse punishment. Mentally ill patients may be put to death. The possibility exists that innocent men and women may be put to death. Every human being is entitled to a second chance in life. There's a chance that criminals may improve. Usually, it has been seen that poor people are more likely to be put to death because they cannot afford a proper attorney. Also, minorities are most likely to be put to death. Capital punishment is not always just and appropriate. It is reported that there is no relation between the death penalty and lower crime rates, and it is against human rights.